Shalom, my friend. Have you ever noticed that the people who obsess the most about money are often the ones who struggle with it the most? Here's what nobody tells you about wealth. Chasing it destroys it, but aligning with it creates it. Today, I'm going to show you how ancient Torah principles can transform your relationship with money from chaos to clarity, from scarcity to abundance, and from anxiety to absolute peace. And the best part, you don't need to be religious to use this. You just need to be ready to think differently. I'm Rabbi Shimon, the Torah Life Architect, and before you click away thinking this is another religious lecture, let me be clear about something. Torah isn't religion. Torah is a life design operating system that's been solving human chaos for over 3,000 years. Think of it as the ultimate psychological framework wrapped in ancient wisdom. When you understand how to read it, Torah becomes a blueprint for building a life that actually works. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Rabbi, I barely have enough money to pay my bills. How is ancient wisdom going to help me? Others might be wondering if this applies to them because they're not Jewish. Let me address both concerns right now. First, these principles work regardless of your current financial situation because they're based on universal laws of human behavior and the way resources naturally move when aligned with purpose. Second, wisdom doesn't have a religion. Truth is truth, whether you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, or completely secular. Here's the revelation that changes everything about money. In Torah, there's this concept called tzedakah, which most people translate as charity, but that's completely wrong. Tzedakah comes from the root word tzedek, which means justice or righteousness. What this really means is that giving isn't charity. Giving is justice. It's the natural flow of resources in a properly aligned system. Think about your body for a moment. When blood flows freely through your arteries, you have health. When it gets blocked, you have disease. Money works exactly the same way. It behaves like energy. It responds to intention and direction. When it flows with purpose, it creates stability and growth. When you hoard it, when you grip it too tightly, when you let fear control it, you create blockages. And blockages create scarcity, anxiety, and financial illness. This is why people who are terrified of losing money often do. This is why those who spend impulsively end up broke. This is why financial anxiety creates more financial problems. They're fighting against the natural flow of financial movement instead of working with it. Now let's break this down psychologically. When you're in scarcity mode, your brain is literally hijacked by fear. The amygdala takes over, rational thinking shuts down, and you make decisions from panic instead of wisdom. You grab opportunities that aren't right for you. You say yes to things you should say no to. You save money in the wrong places and spend it in the wrong places. Everything becomes backwards because fear reverses the natural flow. But when you understand that money behaves like a living force that reflects your choices and intentions, and when you work with its patterns instead of against them, everything shifts. You start making decisions from clarity instead of panic. You can tell the difference between a real opportunity and a desperate grab. You naturally know when to hold and when to spend. Your relationship with money becomes peaceful instead of stressful. This affects everything. Your marriage improves because money fights disappear. Your parenting improves because you're not stressed about providing. Your work improves because you're making decisions from wisdom instead of desperation. Your health improves because financial stress isn't eating you alive anymore. But here's where most people get stuck. They think this means being passive about money. They think spiritual alignment means sitting around waiting for abundance to fall from the sky. That's not how this works. Torah teaches us that blessing comes through action, but it has to be the right action taken with the right intention at the right time. Let me give you the 3 fundamental Torah principles that transform financial chaos into wealth alignment. I call these the abundance architecture, and they work whether you're making $20,000 a year or $2 million. The first principle is this: boundaries create blessing. In Hebrew, there's a word called gavul, which means boundary. Every blessing in Torah comes with boundaries. The Sabbath is blessed because it has clear boundaries. Marriage is blessed because it has clear boundaries. Even the Promised Land was blessed because it had clear boundaries. Your money needs boundaries too. Without boundaries, money becomes chaos. You spend on everything, save nothing, and wonder where it all went. You say yes to every expense, every opportunity, every request, and end up scattered and broke. Boundaries aren't restrictions. Boundaries are the container that allows blessing to accumulate and grow. This means having clear categories for your money. This much for living expenses, this much for saving, this much for giving, this much for growth. This means having clear rules about spending. This means knowing what you'll say yes to and what you'll say no to before the situation arises. Without boundaries, your money energy leaks everywhere and you end up with nothing. The second principle is this: intention directs energy. In Torah, everything begins with kavana, which means intention. Before any meaningful action, you set your intention. Before you pray, you set intention. Before you eat, you set intention. Before you sleep, you set intention. Intention is what transforms mechanical action into meaningful creation. Most people handle money unconsciously. They spend without thinking, save without purpose, work without clarity about why. Then they wonder why their financial life feels empty and stressful. Money without intention becomes meaningless numbers moving around randomly. But money with clear intention becomes a tool for building the life you actually want. This means before you spend money, you pause and ask, what am I really trying to create here? Before you take a job, you ask, does this align with who I'm becoming? Before you make any major financial decision, you get clear about your deeper intention. When intention directs your money starts working for your actual goals instead of against them. The third principle is this: alignment invites abundance. Torah teaches that when you align your actions with natural law, the universe supports you. When you work with the flow instead of against it, resources appear. When you operate from your authentic nature instead of trying to be someone else, opportunities open up. Most people are trying to force abundance through willpower. They're grinding, pushing, forcing, striving, and burning themselves out. Then they wonder why success feels so hard and why abundance seems to avoid them. It's because they're swimming against the current instead of with it. Alignment means your money decisions reflect your values. Alignment means your work expresses your gifts. Alignment means your lifestyle supports your growth instead of undermining it. When you're aligned, you naturally attract the people, opportunities, and resources that support your path. The universe stops feeling like it's working against you and starts feeling like it's working with you. Now, let me give you a practical checklist to implement these principles this week. These aren't theoretical concepts. These are actionable steps that create immediate shifts. First, create money boundaries. List every dollar you spend in a week, not to judge yourself, but to see where your energy is going. Then create 3 categories: essentials, growth, and joy. Essentials are what you need to live. Growth is what moves you forward. Joy is what makes life worth living. Every expense fits into one of these three categories. If it doesn't fit anywhere, you don't spend on it. Second, set weekly money intentions. Every Sunday, before you start your week, spend 5 minutes setting clear intentions for your money. What are you trying to create? What are your priorities? What would a successful financial week look like? This simple practice transforms unconscious spending into conscious creation. Third, align your income with your values. Look at how you're making money. Does it reflect who you really are? Does it use your natural gifts? Does it contribute to something meaningful? If not, start planning your transition. You don't have to quit tomorrow, but you need a plan to move toward work that aligns with your authentic nature. Fourth, practice conscious spending. Before any non-essential purchase, pause for 24 hours. Ask yourself, am I buying this from abundance or scarcity? Will this support my growth or distract from it? Am I trying to fill an emotional hole or meet a real need? This simple pause eliminates 90% of regrettable financial decisions. Fifth, implement the 10% principle. Give away 10% of your income. I don't care if you make minimum wage or millions. I don't care if you give to charity, family, friends, or strangers. The amount matters less than the practice of letting money flow through you instead of stopping with you. This practice breaks the scarcity mindset faster than anything else. Sixth, create an abundance vision. Write a clear description of what your life looks like when money is flowing properly. Not a fantasy about being rich, but a realistic vision of financial peace. What does your day feel like when money isn't a source of stress? How do you make decisions when you're not operating from fear? This vision becomes your North Star for all financial choices. Seventh, end each day with gratitude. Before you go to sleep, acknowledge 3 things you're grateful for financially. Maybe it's having enough food or a warm place to sleep or work that pays the bills. This practice shifts your brain from scarcity to abundance and opens you up to receiving more. Let me tell you a story that illustrates how this works. In the Torah, when the Israelites were wandering in the desert, God provided manna every day. But here's the thing, they could only collect enough for one day. If they tried to hoard it, it would rot. If they tried to collect extra, it would spoil. They had to trust that tomorrow's provision would come tomorrow. This isn't a story about magic food falling from heaven. This is a psychological training program. God was teaching them to live in flow instead of fear. He was breaking their scarcity mindset by forcing them to trust the process. He was showing them that abundance comes through alignment with natural law, not through hoarding and controlling. The psychological design is brilliant. When you know you have enough for today, you can be present instead of anxious. When you trust that tomorrow's provision will come tomorrow, you can make clear decisions instead of desperate ones. When you stop trying to control the entire future, you can respond wisely to what's actually in front of you. This is how you need to think about money, not as something to hoard and control, but as something to receive, use wisely, and let flow. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. The more natural it becomes, the more abundance shows up in your life. When you align with these principles, your entire financial reality transforms. You wake up without money, anxiety because you know your needs will be met. You make decisions from clarity instead of fear because you're connected to your deeper purpose. You work with joy instead of desperation because you're expressing your authentic gifts. Money becomes a tool for creating the life you want instead of a source of constant stress. Your relationships improve because money isn't creating tension anymore. Your health improves because financial stress isn't wearing you down. Your creativity flourishes because you're not spending all your mental energy worrying about survival. You start attracting opportunities that align with who you really are, instead of just grabbing whatever pays the bills. This doesn't mean you become careless with money. It means you become conscious with money. This doesn't mean you stop planning for the future. It means you stop letting fear of the future control your present. This doesn't mean you ignore practical realities. It means you handle practical realities from a place of wisdom instead of panic. Now, I know some of you are having doubts. Let me address the most common objections I hear. First objection: Rabbi, this feels too spiritual. I need practical advice, not philosophy. Here's the thing. There's nothing more practical than understanding how your psychology affects your finances. Your beliefs create your behaviors, and your behaviors create your results. If you want different results, you need different beliefs. These aren't spiritual concepts. These are psychological tools wrapped in ancient wisdom. Second objection: Rabbi, I don't earn enough money to give 10% away. I can barely pay my bills. I understand this concern, but you're thinking about it backwards. You don't give because you have extra. You give to create extra. Giving breaks the scarcity mindset that's keeping you stuck. Start with 1% if 10 feels impossible. Start with $1 if 1% feels impossible. The amount matters less than the practice of letting money flow. Third objection: Rabbi, this sounds like magical thinking. You're telling me that if I align with these principles, money will just appear? No, I'm not. I'm telling you that when you align with these principles, you'll make better decisions, take better actions, and create better results. You'll stop sabotaging yourself with scarcity thinking. You'll start recognizing opportunities you couldn't see before. You'll work with your natural strengths instead of against them. The magic isn't in the universe providing for you. The magic is in you operating at your full potential. Here's your challenge for this week. Pick one of the principles I've shared today and implement it completely. Don't try to do all three. Don't try to transform everything at once. Pick the one that resonates most strongly with you and commit to it for 7 days. If you choose boundaries, create clear categories for every dollar and stick to them. If you choose intention, set clear purposes before every financial decision and follow through. If you choose alignment, examine one area where your money life doesn't reflect your values and make a plan to change it. The key is complete implementation of one principle rather than partial implementation of all three. Depth creates transformation. Breadth creates confusion. Pick one, go deep, and watch what happens. Remember, these aren't religious rules. These are natural laws. They work whether you believe in them or not, whether you're spiritual or secular, whether you're Jewish or not. They work because they're based on how resources and human behavior naturally interact in the real world. Your money life can be peaceful instead of stressful. Your financial decisions can come from wisdom instead of fear. Your relationship with money can support your growth instead of undermining it, but only if you're willing to think differently, only if you're willing to align with how money actually works instead of how you think it should work. The transformation starts today, not when you have more money, not when your situation improves, not when everything is perfect. Today, with whatever you have, wherever you are, exactly as things are right now. The principles work at every level. The only question is whether you'll use them. Your soul is the blueprint. Your life is the construction. Shalom, my friend. Now let's build the life God designed for you.